What's up, XPT family? I'm back here with another product review. So this is the Cold Plunge. This is the Pro version. I've been fortunate to use this Cold Plunge for probably the past 5 months, 4 or 5 months. I've put this thing to the test, with my personal use as well as with a more commercial use with a bunch of athletes coming over here and friends coming over and checking it out. So I'm gonna tell you guys some of the pros and cons to this Cold Plunge. Obviously, one of the biggest pros to any cold plunge is not having to go get ice. I love to have something that just has the cold water in it that I can just jump into whenever I want and keeps the water clean and cold. I used to have one of the chest freezers, and that thing was great for keeping the water cold, but it didn't keep it clean, so I had to drain that thing often. So the cleanliness factor of this Cold Plunge is huge. This thing is filtered constantly. It runs through a pool filter. It cleans the water out. It takes the stuff out of it. It also has a ozone and UV filtration to kill some bacteria. You can put some food-grade hydrogen peroxide in here, which is what I do to just add an additional boost to killing bacteria in there. So from a cleanliness perspective, that's obviously awesome because I can come out here, I can jump in the plunge whenever I want. A lot of the plunges that are on the market are $10,000 to $15,000 that have similar function of this and performance. These plunges, that's one of the biggest pros of this plunge, is it's going to be much more cost effective without sacrificing performance. I believe the traditional plunge will cost $4,000. The Pro version, I believe, is $5,000. So again, that's about half the price of many of the competitors, if not a third of the price of some of the other plunges that are out there. From a performance standpoint, this thing gets cold. That's one of the biggest things we're always looking at XPT. And another downside of some of the other more commercial cold plunges that are out there is they don't get below about 42, 45 degrees. This one will get down into the 38, 30. I think it's 38 is the lowest I've seen it, maybe 37. But it'll get down to 38. And it will maintain that temperature relatively well. It gets down there really quick. So I have the Pro chiller, which I believe is a 1 horsepower chiller. The Pro it's the most powerful chiller that I've used. This thing cools the water down about 8 to 10 degrees per hour. So even when I fill this up with the hose here in Southern California, that's 72 degrees, it'll cool the thing down for use a couple hours later versus some of the other plunges that might take a couple days to get down to the temperature we're looking for. So that's a big benefit. It looks really clean. Obviously, you can see it's a clean aesthetic. I know some people I've had come over, they really like it. It's a luxurious looking bathtub. So it's got a nice clean look to it. And that's another big benefit. The light in there is really cool. So if you're using it at night, you've got this light in there, and it looks really clean and luxurious at a lower price point. It's got pretty good insulation, so it maintains its temperature pretty well. I've had groups of athletes run through it, big 250-pound guys getting out of the 230-degree sauna and coming in here, and I've had 6 to 8 people run through it, and it goes up. I think the total temperature it went up was probably about 2 to 3 degrees per round. So 6 people going through, and it goes up about 3 degrees. So it'll go up, I think 10 degrees. It'll be up in the high 40s by the end of the round I do. But again, that's a little bit more commercial use when I'm running groups of people through it. If you're using it personally at home, this thing will maintain its temperature for exactly what you need. Now, some of the downsides of this tub. One, I've had a handful of people who don't love the aesthetic for outdoor use. I think it looks a little better if it was an indoor tub because it's a bathtub look. It looks a little better for an indoor tub. So again, that's personal preference and that's the aesthetic, but that's some feedback I've had from other people. The white tub itself, I don't love. It gets dirty really easily, or at least shows the dirt and grime on it. So you have to clean it a little more often, which maybe that's a good thing because it keeps you from being dirty and keeps the thing clean. I know they are potentially coming out with another tub later on in some different colors. So that's an option to look out for. The other downside of the chiller, obviously I mentioned I have the most powerful chiller that they have. This thing crushed my electric bill. So I think it was costing me to run it regularly. It was costing me like $200 extra a month in electricity, which is more than running my sauna. The other downside to it, just from an aesthetic standpoint, all of the filtration and piping is on the outside. I've had some people who really don't like that. I personally like it a little bit more enclosed. I know they did come out with a new thing now that you can enclose the pipes. The chiller's still external, but again, that's a little bit personal preference. One thing I didn't mention that I really like is because it's a bathtub, you're able to lay down in it. And that's one big benefit a lot of people have really enjoyed about this versus some of the tubs where you have to sit a little more upright. Being able to lay down, stretch out, take your toes out if you need to, a little bit more relaxed. I know that's a huge benefit that I personally really enjoy about it. It can be a little slippery getting out because it's a bathtub, so you might need to put a little pad maybe in it. It'd be cool if later on they come out with some sort of something on the surface that allows a little bit more grip, because I know people coming out of the ice bath, particularly if you're new, you can be a little wonky when you're getting out of there. So another thing to think about. But overall, I mean, this thing is very high performing. I think it looks cool, and it gets to the temperatures that we need, and that's one of the big challenges. And it's affordable. We're talking $4,000 versus $15,000. So it doesn't require any external plumbing either. And the other thing is it has a drainage on it, so you can drain it if you need to really easily by just attaching a hose. I actually just drained this one yesterday and cleaned it out. So a lot of pros to it. Obviously, you're going to have to weigh those pros and cons. The only downside I'd say for some of the XPT coaches is if you're looking for more commercial use, a lot of these tubs, you're just going to run into the issue of the more hot bodies you run through it, the temperature is going to increase. It's not going to maintain its 35 or 38 degree temperature without dumping some ice or something else into it. But that's just the reality of putting a bunch of hot bodies into this type of tub. So that's some of the pros and cons to it, but overall, I think it's a great tub for at-home use. I highly recommend it. Thanks for checking out this series. Let me know if you guys are using any other cold plunges that you really like that we haven't reviewed yet. Would love to check those ones out. I'll see you guys next time for another product review.